consultants and this board time to review. When we try to rush that deadline, we kind of put everybody under the gun, and things get missed. But not a no, not a yes, but let's see when everything gets set in. The building department, my consultants, and council will let us know, and then we'll let you know from there. Okay, don't go anywhere yet. You guys do, anybody?
The only thing there were a number of comments that we had in here. Mike addressed some of those, so I really don't want to go through them. They have a copy of this, so we have a copy of it now. The one thing in here was ESOs. Sometimes you refer things like this to the ESOs, make sure there's no objection, no problems, access, other conditions. You might want to get that out of the way and have this referred over to the ESOs so they can consider and get back to you with any comments they might have.
Could I just ask, what is the ESO?
Emergency service organizations. It's a police, fire, ambulance.
And typically it's something your office does, right, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do it unless the board wants me to refer it over to the ESOs.
Can we notify the ESOs, please?
Will do. Words I wanted to hear.
I'm sure they did too. All right. Consultants are good? Council's good? Rich? Robin? He's late, he's tired.
Mike, what's your opinion of the balloon test as far as visibility? Some areas it's visible, very visible, in some areas it's not. Do you think that a stealth tree would be suitable in this situation?
Well, if you're looking at the what's called the view shed map, and it's interesting how that was carried forward from April when we had discussions about where to take photos from and whatnot. Many of those photos held true. There are a couple that were added here. Remember, this was during off-leaf, quote unquote, but pine are up all year round. If you look through the simulations, you can see some other trees in bloom, but there were a lot of leaves that were not out yet. So it wasn't a bad time to do this. So within their radii, you could see where there's visibility, where there's not. I think a stealth tree has some merit here. The one, and we'll have to talk about that and discuss that, but some sites, when you have a stealth tree rising starkly 50 feet above other pine trees, maybe not so good. The site that we reviewed, the APC site that you mentioned, I think was real nice actually, because you have the backdrop of a ridge behind it. This is 110 feet, not 150 feet, and I think that's certainly something I'm going to evaluate a little bit more here. So
I'm a big fan of stealth trees.
Yeah,
Every cell tower I see, I said it should be a stealth tree.
Well,
especially the Larkin Drive one.
Can I follow up on a question? Because there was a suggestion about if this is too low and you need to make it a co-location to add pole height, would that then change the future aspects of this? And can you take a pole that's not stealth now because it's only 110 feet high, and then when you extend it up to 140 feet, make it a stealth tower? Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, it's all in the foundation and the pole design, and it may look perhaps a little bit unbalanced and awkward without those leaves and branching. That's a lot of structural weight that's added, plus wind load associated with that.
Right.
So there are ways to engineer that. That might be interesting. I'm not familiar with a site that's been done before. There is another FCC ruling for existing cell sites and how they could be modified in the future. You may be aware of this. When applicants come into the Village of Woodbury, for instance, if they're looking to do a minor modification of an existing site, swapping out antennas, for example, changing an equipment cabinet at the base, if they're within certain parameters, they don't need a special permit, and there's time frames associated with that as well. Village of Woodbury Building Department handles that, and we work on a number of those, many applications that come in and out. This, of course, is something different. It's a brand new facility, brand new structure. But that upgrade or non-significant change ruling for those swap outs also is relevant to co-location. So the idea, if somebody comes below Verizon at 90 feet, that would be a building permit application. That's a non-substantial change. We've also worked on some of those in the village. Going upward is a little bit different. Going upward for the second time, I think, is very different. So those are things we have to plan for a little bit. We wouldn't want something to be built and then somebody adds on under the eligible facilities request, somebody adds on again. That's certainly a situation that we want to avoid. So, yeah, those are different situations that we have to kind of consider and be proactive about.
Thank you.
Can stealth pull the flag at the same time? We could just put it all into one.
Figure clock tower too.
Could call clock tower, call the. Just kidding.
I don't have any comments.
Sandy?
Okay. All right. I do have several comments. Exactly where is the coverage area that you're trying to expand or get coverage to?
I believe Mr. Musso just explained that. It's also not only coverage, it's capacity.
Okay.
A lot of these sites are at capacity.
Right.
The two sites that Mr. Musso mentioned, this site will have the ability to relieve that capacity. So it'll provide extra coverage, but really it's providing extra service to the area. Because, if a caller is at a facility that's at capacity or exceeding capacity, you'll have to drop calls. You won't notice that there's no signal on your phone. You just won't have a call go through. So this is helping that problem.
And what's the radius that this is going to?
Based on topography, it doesn't work exactly like the perfect circle.
Okay.
But if you look at the materials that we submitted to the RF expert, they do actually show color-coded maps that show exactly what the propagated signal should be.
Well, I guess where I'm going with this is I'm curious because the project location or the project name is Adria Hill. So that's up at the top of WP3, I think, right?
We noted that previous. It shows up on a map, and that's how they picked it, as I understand it. So.
We were supposed to have changed the names on all of them per the chair's request there, but yeah, that's just when the search rings get issued, basically internal Verizon budgeting, they assign it a name, and then as the sites move and the budgeting is attached to a name, the name kind of goes with it, but the name is basically irrelevant, and, sorry, it wasn't.
Well, no, because and if that's the coverage area,
I would ignore the name completely and I'll apologize. I would
Okay.
look at the map, it actually showed the color coding. It showed
yeah,
exactly where
I
it's supposed to cover.
saw them all.
Yeah,
Because
this happens all the time. It happened on the APC application, if you remember.
I came in at the tail end of the APC.
Okay, and here, Harriman is a good name for the Arden Hill one, but Woodbury Commons for the Marlane. Close enough, right? But it's not in Woodbury Commons.
Right.
Sorry, when I popped these open, I said, wait a minute, they have a site at Woodbury Common? No, it's the one at the BMW dealership.
There is a
So-
site at Woodbury Common, by the way.
There's one in, not Verizon.
No, it's the one in the barn, yeah.
Yeah, it's-
You're requesting that they change the name. Okay. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is, I have to say I don't like the placement of it. It is in a residential area. I know that you looked at you said that you tried to go into other areas, but I'm curious, and I'm certainly not an expert or anywhere near that on cell towers, but I've been trying to look at other alternatives, and I was wondering about if you even considered I guess the high tension power line that comes down off the strata. I know they put, pictures where they put cell towers on those existing towers. Were those even looked at? They're at the top of a strata, they're high, they're unencumbered by anything. It seems like that would send your signal, I didn't see that in any of the data, that it seemed like you were like right along the thruway.
Generally, that's a really hard contracting and leasing process. It's also, it's just really problematic to get through the whole approval process to get that done. Usually, a lot of projects that try to go through that route die in that approval process. So those are usually unfeasible locations. We can look into it more and discuss with Mr. Musso all the alternative locations, but in general, when trying to locate on the high tension power lines, those projects often fail.
Yeah, if I could comment on that as well. Orange and Rockland, we had heard not too long ago, in doing the same type of due diligence, that the Public Service Commission is not allowing access to right-of-ways. Maybe it's a security issue. But we're not seeing co-location on the transmission towers. I haven't seen any of them in 10 years. When they were being co-located, they were normally 3 antennas, not more than that. Once in a while, there was a new pole below or in the right-of-way, but we're just not seeing that anymore. It's certainly a question we could ask or have the applicant
Okay, because
ask.
I know there's some in Rockland.
Yeah,
Some of
if you
those-
drive down the thruway, you can see some,
Yeah.
but those are old. And they've been there well over 10 years. And I have worked with ones in the early days of this, and yeah, we're just not seeing approvals by the power companies or Public Service Commission.
Is that O&R, that transmission line? That
I'm
runs
guessing
down?
it's O&R here.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Is that the one that goes right through the common now and then goes up the?
And it goes up,
It's,
yeah.
it's
they were
certainly,
backyard.
Yeah.
O&R here.
Right.
So I would think so.
Yeah, we,
So-
Unless the
yes.
military takes it over at some point, I'm not sure.
yeah, we could look at it, but just it's not a trend. It was in the early days of rollout with the new equipment, new technologies. It just hasn't been something that the carriers have looked to or been allowed to look
Personally,
at.
I'd like to see it looked at just to take it out of a residential area. I'm really not happy that it's in a residential area. And I did have another question as far as this propane generator. Does that run constantly?
No.
How, does it
That's
have
just
to?
for emergency needs. so
Okay, but
the
does it have to
cycle-
test itself or cycle?
the cycle's really-
I believe once a month during business hours.
Okay, and how long is
I can
it?
get back to you with an engineer's
Okay.
recommendation, but that's not very long, but I'll get back to you.
Okay, and,
Yeah, we'll put a condition or requirement into our memo. It's usually once a week for 15 to 30 minutes.
okay.
And you can set the day and the time.
Yeah, right, like
Okay.
business,
What's the
AM
sound like
business
on that?
hours. 43 dBA at the nearest property lines, I think is what it was, which is well within code requirements.
And what's that, what, can you liken that to any other kind of?
Background levels?
Probably lower than I'm speaking right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, okay.
So it's intermittent, but it does run. There's 2 120-gallon tanks. 120 might be in a residential size. So there's 2 of them, and it's there if and when needed. When power goes out, when landlines don't work, everyone's on their phones. That's when you need it. But normally it is tested relatively infrequently
Okay.
for a short
And
period of time.
My last question, and
No,
please
you'll
don't
have.
roll
I
your
know
eyes or laugh.
Word will have
but
more.
As far as the radiation level of these towers,
Right.
in that area, there's a house across the street, there's a house, on Abrams, there's a house on Estrada, which would be like a direct line.
Yep.
What is the radiation level of these?
So there was a conservative worst-case RF emissions analysis that was done. They accounted for the proposed Verizon equipment and 3 other carriers, AT&T, Sprint, T-Mobile, all speculative, whether or not that's built or not. The maximum cumulative was less than 5% of the general public MPE level, maximum permissible exposure limit, which is a health-based limit. So I've reviewed hundreds of these. I've been with field measurements too at build sites, so it will not be an issue. They're well below.
And will that remain the same?
More than
if it-
20 times below what's permissible.
Will
for
that remain the same
full-time
if it
exposure.
is extended?
If it would be extended up, that's an interesting question. I think part of your concern is going to the west, or to the east rather. Homes and residential areas actually rise up a little bit. So it's really a function of distance away from the pole,
Okay.
away from the tower. So 5, certainly below 10%. Once you get away 100 feet off this property, you're never going to see anything higher than that. It's almost impossible that you would. So they are in compliance with that. And again, this is for one provider. That less than 5% that I gave you assumes a worst case, all on 4 providers altogether. And that differs from the old days, 25 years ago, in that these aren't the high-powered sites at the top of the hill anymore. You know, those are the sites that were built in the early days. They covered square miles. This is a relatively focused site that if it was cranked up really high from a power level, it would kind of eat itself in the network. It would interfere with Mar Lane. It would interfere a little bit with other sites. So it is compliant, and I'm comfortable at those levels.
And do we, as the board, have authority to condition how many users can go on that, or that's out of our hands?
Well, you'll be giving a site plan approval if you deem that that's appropriate for the tower structure plus Verizon. From there, this is the FCC order that I was talking about earlier. That would be an eligible facilities request, as long as they're within certain parameters, meaning going below or extending the height only by a small percentage. And as long as they're within the RF emissions levels, then that would be in the
So we
building
don't-
permits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would just like to remind the board, I'm sure they've heard this before, that our emission levels are a preemptive topic of the Telecommunications Act. So by certifying that we meet the FCC rules and regulations regarding RF emissions, this board is actually prevented from basing its decision on those requirements or on that topic.
You could ask questions though, like you are, and
We'll
have your.
continue to answer the questions. I just wanted to point that out.
Sounded like council.
All right, I am well right now. So you guys are aware, you guys got to get the freshwater application permit in, and then once Mr. Musso gets the memo, respond to his memo, get that stuff submitted as quickly as possible, and then we will see about what is the next date we can get you on, and then move the process forward with getting a public hearing if we are comfortable at that point. Does anybody else have anything for the applicant?
Yeah, just with the board's permission, if, I'll be interfacing if needed with the Homeland reps. I'll report back to you as I speak to them. But before I get my written notification out, I find it helpful to talk with the Homeland representatives, just to clear things up. So I'll be doing that. I wanted just to be open about that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Then that I will look for a motion to declare this as an unlisted action on the CEQA with our intent to be lead agency.
I make the motion.
Second? On the second, on the question? Wow. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much, guys. All right. Next up. Genco, review a previously approved site plan, special permit and ARB, a proposed 7-unit residential complex on vacant property which is expired. Said property is located in the HB zoning district at 6 and 8 Falkirk Avenue in Central Valley and is known in the village Woodbury Tax Map Sections 231, Block 3, Lot 6.1 and 6.2. I believe we spoke briefly, we can reaffirm SECO, right? There's nothing,
Yes, as far as secret goes, you can reaffirm. Basically, this is just as a summary, what the applicant said, this is an application for the site plan, special permit, and ARB. You can reaffirm your negative declaration. Under your code, it still requires to have a public hearing.
okay.
There's no waiver of that for this, even though you already held one. And since you're doing that, I always think it's a good idea to re-refer to the county.
Okay, so we'll need to, so we couldn't schedule a public hearing until the 239 comes back? And
No,
this-
you should,
We
I
can
don't know
skip.
if your code says anything particular in that, but I think that you can set the public hearing. I don't see a problem with that.
We can't make the
Right,
decision,
you just
right?
wouldn't be able to, and normally you wouldn't anyway. Normally you'd authorize the drafting of a resolution, which, and on an application like this where the county has already weighed in, their review time becomes faster. When they say, wait, did anything change? And we say, just the date, and that's it. So,
And I presume the application is still the same as was previous, okay. Dennis?
Not too much to add to that, but what the only certification that I would request is from your engineer to state that the plans that are in the department, that came in shortly after your approval, there was an administrative problem where they didn't get signed, are the same plans that this board is being asked to approve, that there's no changes other than those that were required to satisfy the resolution. And I think that the set of plans that are in here now should be changed only to have a new revision date on them so that we know that they're current plans that this board is now going to act on. If I get that certification, I have nothing further. We already reviewed those plans, we made our comments, the board took an action. No zoning has changed or any significant changes in the 1 year that's lapsed. And so I don't, it would be warranted to do another full review or necessary.
Stu?
No, I have no other comments.
Any comments or questions from the board? Joe,
No comments.
okay, I know you weren't here when,
Nope, I'm ready to second the closing of the hearing.
I'm okay, you know, no, the applicant was always very cooperative throughout the whole process, and they were very accommodating for any requests that we had, so I think this should go very smoothly.
Sandy, you
Yep.
I'm good? You said you were good, right? Okay, very good. All right, so, two motions. First motion will be to reaffirm SECA with a negative declaration.
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
On the question?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Trying to
We're
speed
jumping,
this
we're
along.
jumping.
She jumping the gun. Everybody wants to go
Along.
home. Okay, we're almost there. So schedule a public hearing.
You can do this for the next meeting. I spoke to Maria. This one does not require the provisions of the wireless law, so they can list this. The only thing for the applicant, if there's a GML 239 referral, they won't be able to get action. You wouldn't be able to take action at your next meeting, even though you could authorize a resolution now, I guess.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
If you would like, and you want to authorize the drafting of a resolution, is pretty much going to be identical, just with the dates updated. You can do that, and then if you get the response from the county back by then, you'll have it to act on. If also you'll hear any comments from the public, take those into account too. I assume they're going to be the same as you previously received, and if you don't get it back, you just don't act on it, but you have the ability to do that.
okay. So we can hold and close the public hearing on the 7th, and like you said, the 239 is back. We could have, if we authorize it, right? Okay. August 7th for a public hearing. It's okay with the applicant. Okay, so let's make a motion that we schedule a public hearing August 7th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion that we authorize council to draft a favorable resolution of approval.
I'll second.
On the question?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
See, I waited that time.
You wait.
So we got the 239 referral, the refurb with SECA, public hearing is set. I think we got everything, right? Okay, all right.
Okay.
Sorry, I should put you guys at the front of the list. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Anybody else have any other matters for the board this evening? Motion to close? Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I didn't think anybody was gonna question that
question
one.
that?
I don't think anyone was gonna question that one.